Do you think there's any reason for someone who's already had COVID to get vaccinated?
No, there's 3 studies well characterized, and 3 more that have weighed in preprint showing harm. So we've already covered the fact that recovered people don't get COVID a second time. And even if you argue that you think you can find a case here and there, boy, it's 1 in 7 billion people who can get COVID a second time. It's rare as hen's teeth if it even happens. So the point is, if you can't get it a second time, you can only be exposed to harms. So the vaccines, like any other medical treatment, are not free of adverse effects.
Now, what if someone got a very mild case of COVID, an asymptomatic test that showed up, or asymptomatic case that showed up as a PCR test, especially when they were running, what was it, like 40 cycles at one point in time? If that person tested positive on multiple occasions but does not show antibodies in an antibody test, do you think for that person it would be a good idea to get vaccinated?
You know, there's 3 ways to prove your immunity. One is you have a concrete case of COVID-19. So you have the characteristics, signs, and symptoms. You were sick, positive PCR test, preferably low cycle threshold, antigen test. I got COVID-19. I did the right thing. I was in FDA-approved research. I took hydroxychloroquine in FDA-approved research, and I tested positive for the PCR, but also the antigen. So I had, COVID-19 is such an important diagnosis. Why don't we confirm it? In HIV, we always use confirmatory testing. We don't ride on one test alone. But in the case where it's well documented and you're sick, you're done. You basically have permanent immunity at that point. Over 135 studies support that now. Paul Alexander.
Permanent immunity.
Permanent. SARS-CoV-1, which is 90% similar to SARS-CoV-2, it's forever.
So
it's forever.
If you have symptoms and you recover from those symptoms, likely you have lifetime immunity.
Everything we can tell, it's just like SARS-CoV-1. SARS-CoV-1 is 17 years old. It's one and done, supported by 135 studies.